my overall impression, I loved it. Absolutely, I loved it. Um, I liked. We're not gonna go into the first two movies, but what I liked about it is the you had successful black people
Hmm.
in the movie. It wasn't some hood shit. Uh, they were all friends. They all loved each other. They always had each other's back and stuff like that. And I liked the fact that I felt like it was a little bit rushed in some parts, but I felt like they touched on a lot of relevant topics, which I really liked. And I like the way it came together at the end. I
Okay.
feel like it could have been more than 8 episodes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it could have
Definitely.
gone. And at first, I was thinking, I said, you know what, maybe it could have gone another season, but I said, no, maybe about at least 2 to 3 more episodes. Yeah, I think,
Sometimes you gotta let it go. It stops at a perfect time.
yeah,
And I think it was the perfect time for that particular movie to end because I didn't need to know all the ins and outs and more details of like the failed relationship.
mhm,
Um, I didn't want to, we have to deal with too much of that on a day to day basis.
mhm,
But to see the co parenting work well, that
mhm,
was it. And the grandmother came in. So you see, it's not like the typical I'm mad at her, I can't get along with my mother in law type thing. So I
yeah,
think it meshed together well at the end, and they ended it on a high point. Him and Jordan,
mhm,
they didn't work out, but when they sat there and they unraveled that ball,
yeah,
and his main goal was to win that award.
mhm,
So it ended on a high note to like bring in full circle of the things you write down 30 years ago. It
mhm.
doesn't necessarily have to come true right away. It may take 30 or 40 years for you to see it in full force, or it's flourished the way it's supposed to.
You're absolutely right about that. You write certain things down, and then here 30 years later, it takes time to manifest itself. No, I like that a lot. I do feel what you're saying when he says. I think maybe because I just enjoyed the show, because that's literally set up in one day and watched the entire thing.
Hmm.
And I think I wanted a little bit more, but you're absolutely right. And I had to think about this today before this conversation, where I was like, man, some points it felt like it was a little bit rushed, but I said, you know what? I think it was a good even balance, and I like the way that they touched on multiple different topics that are really going on,
Hmm.
so that people are really dealing.
We gonna get there. Yes.
With.
Well, I thought it was good overall. Um, on a grading scale, I would probably give it maybe a B plus. It wasn't a, it wasn't like the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of my favorite series, they always end, the ones that I remember that stand out, they fast forward say 20 years and you kind of get like a picture of like how they ended up. I would have liked to have seen that,
Yeah,
you know.
I would for her to come back in, but you did say like some of the plot was a little bit wonky. I did think that some of the parts were a little Tyler Perry-ish. Maybe they had a little bit
Like
of
with Sydney, no, what's her name? What's the light skinned girl's name?
hold on, refer to my notes.
He got his notes.
Shelby, yeah,
Shelby, yeah,
yeah,
that some of her lines.
it was a little bit Tyler Perry-ish, I thought, and I said, but that thing is overall, honestly, I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I thought it wasn't some. I liked it because it wasn't some hood shit, and it was successful black people dealing with real problems,
Yeah.
and that are relevant today, and or that's just relevant. Period. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, not just going on today, but it's more. A lot of things are more out there and discussed today,
Yeah.
and it's
I
real.
really go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, you go ahead. No, no, it's cool.
I was gonna say I really enjoyed just like seeing all that melanin on the screen.
Oh,
And I'm
absolutely.
so glad they didn't bring Jordan's ex-boyfriend, the white boy, in there. It was just all black the whole way. And oh my God, like especially seeing the little kids and how the
Yeah.
daughter's hair was natural. And I just loved it.
And, and
That's
I,
what I was like, ooh, this looks so nice.
and I love they had all the original characters. Everybody aged well. Everybody looks.
Yes.
Everybody absolutely looks great. So
Yeah.
yeah, I really enjoyed that also.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, while you were doing that, we're just saying how, just briefly saying how Mo was saying how some of the plots seemed a little bit wonky. It was the word that she used. In some aspects of it, it had kind of like a little bit of Tyler Perry vibes, a little bit.
Like with Shelby
Yeah, with Shelby, it was
in
a
the
little bit
stripper,
Tyler
that was
Perry at points, but I still love it. I give it a higher than a B plus though.
okay.
But I mean, let's be real. Come on now.
No,
Think about it though. She came all the way out there
yeah,
to be her rat.
that's something you'll see in a Tyler Perry movie.
It is, but think about it logically though.
Mm-hmm.
Is somebody gonna go all the way out of their way for that much attention? Why
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't you expect that from them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean, and no offense to the housewives of, or the reality TV show members or cast,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, that's right up that alley. I was just
Yeah.
waiting for a drink to be thrown in the face,
Yeah.
and it would have just tip topped it all off.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, it matches. Oh, I'm gonna do it. Oh, I'm gonna do it.
Go ahead, let's do it.
Merch.
Okay.
Oh, poor Merch. Oh, poor Merch.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't what you called Murch the other day. What we call
Yeah,
Murch?
poor Merch. He wasn't built for it,
No.
And the reason I say this is the thing that I love about my friendships and the relationships built over time is having the ability to say what you're gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
I said it. I don't like this. But in the same breath, if you tell somebody else you don't like something, you have to be able to accept that criticism when it comes back to you 100-fold. And that is what makes the claw different.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that poor Murch,
Mm-hmm.
poor Murch. When I was in Korea, we used to tell people, hey, we cut from a different cloth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could be Bihhh-made if you want, but we cut from a different cloth over here on this side.
Mm-hmm.
But he was the emotional one in the group. They already knew he was emotional. They knew he can't keep secrets, but they still kept telling him stuff because he was that friend. That was the role he played in the relationship. But he didn't want to come to grips with it. But when he saw himself on screen,
Mm-hmm.
then he got mad. Don't get mad because somebody told you how you really are. If you don't like it or you don't like what you're portraying, that's something you need to go in and change. But if you change it, that's a conversation to be had. That's about communication.
Mm-hmm.
But not only did he not know how to communicate, that's why he had to go into MMA and start fighting
Mm-hmm.
for fun to prove a point. That's just like a wee man. Come on, you got to be too something to do something. But if you over here in the 150 club, don't come trying to play big boy games and prove a point.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to play big boy games and prove a point that I'm not that person, but
Mm-hmm.
you are.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And he
Did
didn't.
any of his friends ever straight up tell him you a bitch or you acting like a bitch though? Nobody ever did.
No. I don't think anybody in either of in any of the series told him that. But I think he definitely did struggle with his like masculinity issues.
His wife, I think she touched on it when she told him, "Hey, you're doing so much to be the best man when you weren't chosen to be the best man. Like, man up, calm down.
Mm-hmm.
That's not your role. Play your role." So she sort of kind of touched on it a little bit when they were at breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
But
Point.
then as soon as his boys came in, whoop, he switched right back over. Yeah. He was like, "Oh, I can do it." Like, no, calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like he's trying so hard to fit in. Like, I don't think he ever really felt like he fit in. But that's because he was insecure with who he was.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because they already had accepted him for who he was, but he just hadn't accepted himself yet, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then he had his own demons. I do like I do like how him and his wife communicated though, and I do like how, saying she was supportive of him, and if I recall correctly, he supported her, and they were actually able to communicate. I actually really like that, and I like the fact that his wife didn't see him that way, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. She never
Yeah,
emasculated
yeah,
him or
yeah.
anything.
She was very nice.
yeah, and like she loved him for who he was, so for who
She
he
did.
was. And yeah, absolutely, he definitely struggled with his own internal masculinity. Yeah, his own issues, absolutely.
But I mean, you can struggle with something, but you need to be able to communicate all aspects,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So he could go home in his, oh, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm sorry, Mo. He could go home with his wife, who he married after he had met all his friends.
Mm-hmm.
And he could sit and have that transparent and be vulnerable with his wife. But his friends, that those boundaries should have already been built prior to, he couldn't sit down and have that same conversation with. These friends that he grew up with, he went to college with, he
Mm-hmm.
should have been able to sit down and have a conversation. And Terrence, you know,
Quentin.
Quentin, yeah, thank you. Quentin, he tried when he brought him coffee.
Mm-hmm.
When he was taking the girls to school, he brought him coffee, and he tried. That was him extending that olive branch, but he couldn't have that vulnerable conversation,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And you can tell his comfort level. And then, of course, I mean, I said what I said, and I'm not gonna go back on what I said, but even like things can be taken out of context, or things can be labeled incorrectly. Like he was essentially, he was a businessman, but he was at home dad.
Mm-hmm.
When she was doing her doctorate stuff and trying to get her dissertation out, he was taking that role.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how they co-parent together and how they built that relationship. She respected him for who he was, and he respected her. It's almost like a sense of being able to fluently switch the roles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, you taking the trash out today because it's gonna stink if it doesn't. Oh no, I'm a man. I'm supposed to take the trash out. You a woman. You're not supposed to do that. It was a respect for the roles. So it's like Mo said, she never talked about him. She never downed him. He could be who he was with her,
Mm-hmm.
but he couldn't do it with his homeboys.
I think that he couldn't do it with his homeboys because of his own internal struggles.
Facts.
Because I think that if he had sat down with his homeboys, they would have absolutely accepted him.
They would have,
And I
but
agree.
that's his own mental.
Yeah, and I think I agree with what you said, because Quentin did try to extend that olive branch when he brought him coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And he shut that down. Like, I can't show you that side of me.
Uh-huh.
And he was angry, and he pointed his anger that he had for Harper.
Mm-hmm.
He pointed his anger that he had for Harper on the Quentin.
Mm-hmm.
That had nothing to do, but Harper did what Harper has his role.
Mm-hmm.
Harper played his role in the relationship, and Harper's role in the relationship was Harper would write it out and put it on Front Street.
Mm-hmm.
And he would go and he would ask for blessings. If it wasn't depicted in the book that way, he read the book before anybody else did. So he knew what it was going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
But he came in and he immediately gave his blessing. But then after everything was said and done, now he mad.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be mad.
You have to own. He has to own it. I mean, if you, again, I know we're not talking about the first movie, but that's who he was.
You can reference the first and
Yeah,
second
the thing is,
movie.
that's really
Yeah.
who he was.
Mm-hmm.
It just is what it is. That's
Well,
really
hold on. Why can't he get mad? People have a right to change their mind and their feelings.
Use your words.
Okay.
Use your words.
Yes, people do. People got the right to get mad, but at the same time, I think people still have to own. That's where they were.
Mm-hmm.
You still got to own that.
Yep.
That really is where he was. So yeah, you got the right to be mad. You can be mad all day because man, you put me on blast on Front Street like they in this movie. You gotta own the fact that hey, he gave a blessing. And then B, that's really where he was. That's who he was.
Yeah.
Because
Now, do you guys think if he had told Harper straight up how he felt, do you think Harper would have obliged and changed the character or?
No.
No, because Harper was very much into. He was going to write it, and he was going to write. He was very into his writing. Like he had to really like feel it. He had to. That was his passion.
And it was all from his point of view. And if that's how he saw each of these characters, then it is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't think Harper could have did anything about it. Either way it goes, Harper couldn't have did anything about it, even if he wanted to, because however much they had offered that man for that movie, and he accepted that offer, some of those rights were lost.
It was out of his control.
So some of those interpretations, you know what I mean? It's just like with Nina Simone in her movie.
Mm-hmm.
We know Nina is not that light. She ain't never been that light here. But once it was sold into Hollywood and production started, they can't come back and say, oh, you need somebody with the darker complexion. You know what I mean? So everybody has a role to play. So the only thing that was wrong, I mean, poor Murch. I feel bad for him because it's like a kid having a temper tantrum in the middle of a store. You know,
And
like
I like Murch.
He what?
I like Murch.
It's not a fact of liking him or not. He just didn't know how to use his words, pictures, signs, anything. He didn't want a voice, and he didn't want to come to grips with his own demons. Because if he did, that's just like coming in the grips of in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Shelby was like, are you going with them and not going with me? And he had to man up at that point in the first movie.
Yeah, he did.
And say, I'm going with my boys.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got mad and she stormed off. But him doing that was like, hey, we could count on one hand how many times you manned up and said, hey, you know what? I'm not going to take that abuse from you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So in the same breath of how you can man up with your friend, I mean, I'm not saying man up and go all alpha male and be ridiculous. All I'm saying is, hey, this was me. That's not how I am now. I can't go back and change my past, but this is who I am now. But he couldn't even face it.
Yeah.
That's why he didn't go see the movie. Because he couldn't face. That's why it's always good. And this is a Miss B, Erica, however you want to say it. My own little theory is if you really want to know how you are viewed to other people, one, you need to look at yourself. You need to look at some friends, and you need to look at some enemies. You may even need to go to some strangers because everybody's going to see you differently. And if it's something about that you don't like, that's when you have the power to make a change. But that's not going to change the fact that was your initial impression that you imparted on those folks. So he just didn't want to deal with the fact that, hey, buddy, this is how you were viewed. Not only in the first book, but hey, the second one coming out, you still got the same views.
Yeah.
But now you want to change it with your MMA.
I like the fact that y'all brought up how Shelby was Julian in the first one. And in the second one, he didn't never check Quentin for fucking his girl. He was with her for years. And next thing you know, Quentin and Shelby are together, got a baby and everything. I just now remember that.
Yep, that's good. That's good. That's good.
Yo!
Good.
A different clown.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry. As much as I hate my baby daddy, if my girl starts messing with my baby daddy, I don't think we gonna be cool. There's gonna be something.
Yeah.
So was there ever a confrontation between them two even about that?
I don't believe so. And I had to go back and watch it, but I don't believe so.
They didn't.
Wow.
But when Quentin and the other girl, when Quentin and Shelby started, they didn't start until after the wedding.
Right, they slept together.
After the wedding.
Yeah.
But he broke up with Shelby, and it don't matter if you care or not. He broke up with Shelby and he started dating old girl.
Candy. Yes.
Yeah.
Just like candy.
Yeah. I mean,
yes.
He got
the better woman, but still, he had to have some sort of feelings for Shelby. They was together for long enough for her to be like,
all the time.
And then
I don't know. Rick, that's your. We gonna have to do a male perspective on that one, because you know I mean, I totally understand where my girl is coming from on that, but
Okay, so do you think so because he already had a girl, it shouldn't matter that his best friend is messing with his old girl?
That would bother me. Like me personally, I personally wouldn't go back and do something like that. Like I got a homeboy that, this is ex girl or whatever. I wouldn't cross that line. Oh no, I would hope that somebody would have the same respect for me. But
if it happened, would you feel some kind of way, and would you say something to your friend, especially if y'all that close?
I would. Would I say something to him? Yeah. How would I respond to it? I don't know right now, because that hasn't happened to me. I don't know how I respond to it. What would I think? I don't know. It would make me wonder. Like, man, did y'all have something the whole time? Did y'all have googly eyes for each other the whole? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to be the devil's advocate on this one.
Okay.
Why are we advocating for the devil, though? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, you know, I'm gonna just be here for this. Birds of a feather flock together.
Okay.
Harper had already slept with Mia. Mm-hmm. Harper was getting ready to sleep with Jordan if he could. Mm-hmm. Then your boy, Lance? Mm-hmm. He stepped in and he married Mia. Yeah, he got mad. They fought it out, and then it was squashed. He fought. He prayed about it, and then they pressed.
Yeah.
Who Murch gonna hit in the jaw?
Nobody.
About Shelby.
Nobody.
Okay.